vote chori thing is a hallucination of Rahul Gandhi. Bihar leads the pack when it comes to pro-incumbency states because over the last 2 decades, the kind of transformation that Bihar has witnessed, the expanse of rural roads is 1 lakh plus kilometers. You have an airport in Darbhanga, you have an airport now in Purnia. Mahila voters are going to be the important X factor in these elections. The way Congress party has presided over abusing Prime Minister's dead mother once again. I don't think, Biharis relate with this kind of a frivolous chichorapan.
Hello and welcome to the Statesman Talk. I'm Ananya Dasgupta. On this episode, we are joined by Tuhin Sinha, author and BJP's national spokesperson.
Thank you.
Thank you
Great to
very
be
much
here.
for joining us.
Great to be here. Great to be here in this lovely, iconic Statesman building.
Of course, we are talking about Bihar today. Much happening on that front, and of course, the elections are just knocking on the door. You go to any get together these days. The one thing people want to know of you is who's winning Bihar? Is there a straightforward answer to that?
A very straightforward answer. It's going to be NDA all the way. The reason is pro-incumbency is a reality. And people have got used to a progressive government. In Bihar, they say, "Ab kahe kare vichar, theek hai to hai Nitish Kumar." So I think, India in the last few years has witnessed a new phenomena of pro-incumbency votes. And Bihar leads the pack when it comes to pro-incumbency states. Because over the last 2 decades, the kind of transformation that Bihar has witnessed from 350 odd kilometers of rural roads, today the expanse of rural roads is 1 lakh plus kilometers. When it comes to national highways from 3,300 kilometers sometime in 2004 to 6,000 kilometers, from 5 to 6 hours of electricity in a day on an average in 2004, now it's almost 21, 22. You have an airport in Darbhanga. You have an airport now in Purnia, in the heart of Simanchal, which the Congress and RJD tried their best to convert into larger Bangladesh through their vicious attempts to settle illegal Bangladeshis. So Bihar, if you ask me, is never going to go back to the dark ages when you would require a Laltin. I think that's the sense over here. Of course, there are X factors. You have a new party. One doesn't know which side it is going to cut more votes on. But having said that, like I said, BJP works 24/7. So we have been preparing for this situation for a very long time. We've already released the first list of 71 candidates way before other parties. And I think there is a lot of, there is a great amount of understanding, great deal of understanding with JDU. I don't see a problem in us sailing through.
You mentioned what you call the dark ages, and you mentioned a new party. I'll come to all of that. What impact do you think the controversy over the exercise SIR is having on the ground in Bihar? And what is the BJP strategy as far as these elections are concerned?
Well, there is no impact. Since I sit on TV debates almost every day, I have been through many different surveys from different agencies, and I think only about 15% voters believe that SIR is an issue. And that 15% is a community-specific vote bank of the Congress party.
But who has done this survey?
There are different surveys. I've been on News 24, I've been on different channels. So there are different agencies. Amitabh Tiwari, I believe, has done a survey. There are other agencies which have done surveys. So it's round about 15% of the population, 15% of the voters believe that SIR is an issue. That corresponds with one community-specific vote bank of the Congress party. So I don't think it's going to have any issue. And in fact, even after the press conference, Rahul Gandhi's last press conference on the issue on 18th September, which was a complete fiasco, He tweeted something in the morning. He had to fact check himself. This was with regard to the claims he made about Aland in Karnataka. His claims were completely off the mark. And after which he was so desperate that he had to exhort Gen Z to come on the streets and, protest against the Modi government. And then, of course, he disappeared for 2 weeks. Nobody knows where he was. There were some videos from South America, but since they were planted videos, we don't know whether those were real-time videos. So I think this vote chori thing is a hallucination of Rahul Gandhi.
But if you speak with Congress leaders in Bihar, and we've had a couple of them
Does
on
Congress
this,
have a leader in Bihar?
should ask the party that. They've definitely
So
been
let
on
me
this
tell
show.
you-
But
let me
they've
tell you-
insisted
Huh.
that Rahul Gandhi's yatra in Bihar has been a resounding success. In fact, he's toured 24 districts, 110 assembly constituencies, and you've seen those videos on his Twitter
Congress
as well.
party is the Jamanat Japt party of Bihar. In the last 4 elections, and probably the last 6 elections, but I have data more specifically of the last 4 elections from 2005 onwards, they've never managed to cross 9% vote share. In 2015, they got 0 seats. In 2020, of course, they managed to make a very, mild comeback of sorts. Out of 70 seats they contested, they won 19 seats, but they lost deposit. They lost the deposit in 51 seats. In fact, if there is one party which had failed RJD had an excellent strike rate, it was the Congress party. So from the time, from 1990, early 1990, when I think Jagannath Mishra was the last Congress chief minister of Bihar, Congress has been virtually non-existent in 2 or 3 states. That includes Bihar, that includes Gujarat, that includes Uttar Pradesh. And I don't think, vote chori is an issue which will enable it to make any sort of a comeback. In fact, vote chori was a weapon with which he wanted to bargain for more seats from RJD. And as things stand today, they've still not managed to strike a deal for the number of seats each party is going to fight, which clearly shows that RJD is very skeptical of Congress fighting more seats. It probably wants to give Congress 55 odd seats, and Congress doesn't want to settle for 60, 65 seats. So I think it's a vote chori is not a real issue. In fact, in the last 3 months, they went to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court validated the exercise. Of course, the Supreme Court put certain checks and balances in place, which is the responsibility of the Supreme Court. But at no point of time did it question the validity of the exercise. At no point of time did it say that it should not happen in other parts of the country. In fact, in one of the hearings on 25th August, the Supreme Court reprimanded the Congress party and RJD for the dubious role of their BLAs, the block level agents. And, they kind of probed what exactly are your BLAs doing, because there is no complaint, no formal complaint after the draft voter list has been brought out. So I think people can see through the games of the Congress party, and honestly, vote chori is nowhere or...
Okay, if you say that vote chori is not an issue in Bihar, as is being made out by the Congress, then what is an issue in Bihar? Is it all going to ultimately boil down to caste arithmetic in Bihar?
See, caste is an undeniable factor. In as much as we would like to wish it away, caste will continue to be a factor, but then, that's a secondary factor, I would say. Or maybe, in some districts, it would be at par with the main factor. The main factor will be Vikas. What Bihar has witnessed today, I travel frequently to Patna for lit fests or for political events. Just 5 years ago, the airport, or 3 years ago, in fact, till the time the new terminus was inaugurated, the Patna airport used to be like a 3-bedroom hall, flat. It used to be that crammed, that congested. So from new airports to seamless road connectivity to 24/7 electricity to Adani and to clothes brands like Zara setting up their food processing industries setting up in large numbers. I think it has seen massive development, and that is going to be the main issue. Like I said, pro-incumbency is a factor. We saw that in Uttar Pradesh, we've seen that in Gujarat, we have seen that in Madhya Pradesh, where our government has been for the last 20 years. And I think it's about time, it's high time the media treats it as one of the important factors going ahead.
And you mentioned the new party in Bihar. What do you think is the role that's going to be played by Prashant Kishor?
See, Prashant Kishor is a man in a hurry. And I think, honestly, if you ask me, I think he's still carrying out a consulting role. He seems to be the B team of Congress party. Because the Congress party knows, like I said, it's a Zamanat Jat party in Bihar. So despite its best efforts, I don't see it crossing 9% at the most. Now, Prashant Kishor at some point of time will have to ally with somebody or the other. We will have to wait and see which party allies with. But honestly, barring cutting some votes here and there, I don't see him winning seats. And obviously, in the last 13, 14 years, we have seen one party, one individual, which similarly claimed to be different from everybody, and that person turned out to be a big scamster. I'm talking about Arvind Kejriwal. So one just hopes that, Prashant Kishor does not go that line, because, when you make all kinds of tall claims, but are very circumspect in revealing your cards, obviously there is room for suspicion.
And you're also suspecting the purpose of Rahul Gandhi's South America tour. In fact, you called it a disappearance. Why do you think he wants to escape the heat of Bihar? Why do you think it was the
Well,
wrong
that is
time to leave
something
the
which
country?
he will be able to explain best. But fact is that he's not cut out for the grind of Indian politics. So whenever he works hard for 15, 20 days, he needs that escape. Now, in fact, this was the second break after the Bihar Yatra. In between also, he had disappeared to some Southeast Asian nation, perhaps Malaysia. Now, the point is, he's the leader of opposition in the country. I haven't seen any political leader travel all the way to celebrate Navratra. For voters in Bihar, for voters in the Hindi heartland, we know the significance for politicians of attending Ram Leelas, of going to Durga Pandals, of, being present at Garbas. Not so much in Bihar, does not have Garbas. But, for somebody who has followed politics, you would know the importance of politicians engaging with people during Navratra. Now, this man very consciously disappears during those 7 or 9 days when the vote chori issue or when SIR issue still had some momentum. Now, obviously, it doesn't have any momentum, because I think Tejasvi also realized that that was not the path he wanted to tread. So if you realize, after Rahul Gandhi's disappearance, Tejasvi very consciously stopped referring to the SIR exercise. He stopped referring to vote chori. His focus would be jobs. And of course, he doesn't understand calculations, because he's promised 2.74 crore jobs, Sarkari jobs, when actually there are, I'm told, only about 20 lakh Sarkari jobs right now. But even Tejasvi wanted to steer away from the SIR thing, which was all bubble, which did not have any reality. So that is what happens when. And honestly, wherever Rahul Gandhi goes, I don't see the pressing need for him to demonize Indian institutions. For example, in Peru, what would be the need for a leader of opposition to crib about India's education system being biased? Please understand, this is a time when almost all top foreign universities are planning to set up their campuses in India. The British Premier has just promised that every British university would have a campus in India in the next 5 years. Similarly, in other parts, Indian universities are actually setting up are setting up the campuses in other parts of the world. Now, in this situation, again, him constantly trying to demonize Indian institutions seems to be an attempt to wean away opportunities from India, which is what I find very malified. In fact, after Operation Sindoor, barely 10 days after Operation Sindoor, he tried his best to convert a victory into surrender. Why would anybody, in fact, in the first week of August, there was a Supreme Court observation. Judges nowadays make a lot of observations before they give their final decision. So one of the judges had actually questioned him, which Indian would want to behave in such a manner? Immediately in the aftermath of Operation Sindoor. But that is how juvenile, that is how irresponsible his behavior has been
So
at
you're
every point of
saying
time.
neither SIR nor Rahul Gandhi are making any impact in Bihar. Would something like the Prime Minister's Ujjwala scheme be making any impact,
See,
especially in
women,
rural and backward
absolutely,
voters?
women voters are going to be the turning point. Not just the turning point, they're going to be a huge factor in these elections. Bihar was one of the first states to implement 50% reservation for women at the panchayat level elections. That was way back in 2006, again under Nitish Kumar. Uh, Today, one third of all government jobs in Bihar are reserved for women. And in fact, in the run up to the elections, there was the Mukhyamantri Mahila Rozgar Yojana, which once again is going to be a huge game changer, which provided some 10,000 rupees immediately to um, every recipient of that scheme. So, Mahila voters are going to be the important X factor in these elections, and I would not be surprised if an overwhelming majority of them, 75%, 80%, vote for the BJP and JDU. Also, the way Congress party has presided over abusing Prime Minister's dead mother once again. I think, Bihar is a place of sanskar, Bihar is a place of etiquettes. I don't think, Biharis relate with this kind of a frivolous chichodapan, that's the word in Hindi, of the Congress party. And I think, Bihari voters are going to be punishing the Congress party for this as well. So Congress party is probably is heading towards one of its worst shows, but it will also drag down RJD significantly.
We'll have to circle back and talk to you again mid-November to get back on all that you're saying right now. But you've also spoken about the lawlessness of 1990s
I
Bihar.
witnessed it firsthand.
You've witnessed it because you were living
Yeah.
in Jamshedpur at that time.
Yes, that was part of undivided Bihar.
And what sparked that novel really?
See, there was a case of Champa Biswas, the wife of an ex-IAS officer who was allegedly raped by one of the politically sheltered goons in that era. And unfortunately, even after running from pillar to post, begging and seeking justice, she never got justice. So that was the loose trigger for my book. Um, of course, I fictionalized the entire thing after that, but that was the trigger for it. The book was called The Edge of Desire because obviously post that incident, the story moves way beyond. But for somebody like me who has lived in that era, I can tell you, even in a industrial town like Jamshedpur, suddenly there was a phase, especially in 93, 94, when going out after 7:38 would become very scary. In fact, Dr. Ajay Kumar, who's now the Congress spokesperson, I'll tell you his tryst. It's a very interesting story. His tryst with Jamshedpur. He was an IPS officer at that point of time, one of the trusted guys of Lalu Yadav. So when crime went out of hand in Jamshedpur, the Tatas approached the chief minister to send one of the competent officers who could combat crime. And Lalu, being the mercenary that he was, probably he took a good amount of donation to ensure that Ajay Kumar was sent there with a mandate to curb crime. So Lalu that way, always acted as a mercenary. He knew he had, of course, he knew of officers who could, or he knew officers who could combat crime, but at the same time, there were officers who were specifically told to look away from crime. So when Ajay Kumar came over there, in a short span, obviously, of a month or two, there were many encounters, and he kind of succeeded in curbing the crime. Of course, he grew. He probably grew. He got bored of the IPS job, and he, liked the life in Jamshedpur. One of the reasons why he quit the job and decided to pursue
And
a
all
career.
this is your personal experience from growing up in Jamshedpur.
Yeah, I've seen it firsthand. So Ajay Kumar, at one point of time, like I said, it was a Robin Hood story. where suddenly he would do encounters and the city was temporarily crime free. So he would be called to different schools to give lectures. He was an icon. Of course, today we are on the other side of the. And I remember I was a student who put forth a question to him when he came to our school in 1994. Today, of course, we are on the other side. There's a lot of bashing which goes on between us because he has, he was always a protege of Lalu Yadav then also, and he continues to be a protege of Lalu Yadav now. Of course, the roles are different. Now he's a part of the Congress party, which is hand in glove with Lalu Yadav. But it's just an interesting anecdote which I thought I would share with you.
Lots of interesting anecdotes actually, because you've also grown up in that part of the country, undivided.
So
Bihar
I
at
will
that
also
time.
tell you that while Bihar has always been caste conscious, I don't know of the era of, the socialist era of the 1970s. I don't have much idea. But for kids in Jamshedpur, and especially in a convent school who were completely ensconced or protected from the grime of caste politics, Lalu Yadav was the one who manifested caste identity after a long time. So suddenly, even in our school, one would be aware and, kind of probe. Achha, so I belong to this caste and the other belongs to somebody, some other caste. So Bihar has always had this very complex tryst with caste system. One had only hoped that over a period of time that would go away, but that's a reality which still exists, and one can only hope that even caste-based voting is positive. That's for the larger good of the state, and that all communities get their share of representation.
And you're talking about different sections of society in Bihar. There are also the tribals, and you've written a book on Birsa
So
Munda,
Bihar
the
does not
tribal
have
legend.
Bihar, undivided Bihar had a lot of tribals.
But in present day Bihar, there's about what, 1%?
Yeah, but there are very small pockets.
Okay.
For example, the area of Bhagalpur would have Tilka Majhi, one of the great freedom fighters, and who also belonged to the Santhal community. He was from Bhagalpur. Bhagalpur again is very close to the Santhal Parganas area, but it's a part of Bihar. So undivided Bihar obviously had a huge
Yes.
tribal population, but the present day, a large chunk of that tribal population is now a part of Jharkhand. So yes, I wrote about Birsa Munda because in all my growing up years, there was a lot of curiosity about this intriguing character. Especially in Jharkhand, again, part of undivided Bihar, one would see a statue of Birsa Munda, 3 or 4 different places in the city, but one would never be able to figure out his contribution to India's freedom struggle, because history has always been written from the ruler's point of view, and we have always had a very, like in those days especially, we had a very aristocratic mindset towards our assimilation of history. So that's one thing which has changed post 2014. The way Prime Minister Modi has championed unsung heroes. I think after writing about 7, 8 books, when I was struggling for new ideas, that was the time, and by then I was kind of entrenched into the political world as well. I figured out that the best topic to move ahead was Birsa Munda, because the more you travel, the more you travel across the world, the more you come closer to your roots. So I have grown up watching tribals celebrate their tribal festivals, whether it is Tusu Parab, whether it is Tusu Parab is the equivalent of Makar Sankranti.
Okay.
Plus Karma Puja, and Karma Puja is a festival that celebrates the bonding between brother and sister. So I thought it's a good opportunity to circle back and delve into those issues which I couldn't find much information about in my growing up years. That's how Birsa Munda happened.
Right. All the best for your next books.
Thank
and
you.
all the best for the Bihar elections. We should definitely catch up once the results
Absolutely.
are out.
Yes, we should.
and find out what really the voters think, because you never know which way
Uh-huh.
they think and which way they finally cast their votes. But
Absolutely.
thank you very much for sharing your thoughts on
My
Statesman
pleasure.
Talk.
My pleasure being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it then on this episode of Statesman Talk. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and also post your comments on what you thought of this particular episode.